stood in the middle of my living room, shaking like a leaf in the Harmattan wind, my heart breaking into tiny pieces as I watched my husband, the man I loved with all my heart, carry out boxes of my gold, my documents, and my life savings. He didn't even look ashamed. He didn't look scared. He didn't look sorry. He looked happy, too happy, like someone who had finally won a battle he had been fighting secretly. And the most painful part, he wasn't alone. A young woman with bright red lipstick and long hair stood beside him, holding one of my handbags, the one he bought me on our anniversary. She smiled at me boldly, as if I didn't matter. As if I wasn't the woman who fed him, clothed him, and supported him from nothing. My husband, the man I thought loved me, called me my love every morning and prayed with me every night, turned to me with a cold voice and said, "You brought this on yourself, Margaret. You had too much. You trusted too much. Now it is my turn to enjoy." The world around me went silent. My ears rang. My knees buckled. I opened my mouth to speak, but no words came out. My heart felt like it was bleeding. He pushed the last box out of the house, turned his back to me, and said, "By the time you understand what really happened, we will be far away, and your wealth gone forever." Before I could move, before I could shout, before I could even breathe properly, I heard a loud crash outside the house. Then someone screamed my name. And that was when everything changed. People often ask me, "Grandma, how did you stay strong after everything?" I always smile and tell them, "Sit down, my dear. Let me tell you how it all began." Because stories like mine don't start with calm. They start with love. Sweet, foolish love that blinds you to danger you never imagined. Before my husband betrayed me for every coin I owned, life looked different. Very different. I was not born into wealth. No, I grew up in a small town where everybody knew everybody. My father was a carpenter, my mother sold bread in front of the house. We were not rich, but we were happy. We laughed more than we cried, and that was enough. But when I was 18, my life changed. I got a scholarship to study business in the city. I had never seen tall buildings before. I had never seen big roads with traffic lights. I felt like a small fish dropped inside a big ocean. But I was determined. I worked hard. I read every night. I sold homemade snacks to my classmates to get extra money. Slowly, life started smiling at me. People said I was smart. Some said I was stubborn. But the truth is, I was hungry for success. By the time I graduated, I got a job at a small company. Not a big one, but it was something. I worked like my life depended on it. I got promoted, then promoted again. And by the time I turned 30, I had saved enough money to start my own business. That was when the miracle happened. The business grew faster than I expected. One shop turned into 2, then 3, then a warehouse, then contracts. My bank account started looking like something from a dream. People began to call me Madam Margaret. I smiled every time because it reminded me of how far I had come. But money brings 2 things, attention and danger. And attention brought him. His name was Andrew. Tall, handsome, soft-spoken, with a smile that could melt the hardest heart. I met him at a charity event. I was serving drinks to donors when he walked up to me and said, "A hardworking woman is more beautiful than a queen." I laughed. Nobody had ever said something so sweet to me. I should have walked away that day. I should have listened to the little voice in my head that whispered, "Be careful." But love makes you deaf. It makes you blind. It makes you walk straight into the fire with a smile. Andrew made me feel seen. He listened when I talked. He asked about my day. He cooked for me sometimes and told me stories that made me laugh until tears rolled down my cheeks. He was gentle, patient, caring, or so I thought. Whenever I succeeded in something, he celebrated me like I had won a gold medal. If I cried, he held me. If I was tired, he rubbed my back. I kept telling myself, I have found the right man. People around me weren't convinced, though. My best friend, Helen, warned me every week. "Margaret, I don't trust that man," she said. "Why?" I laughed. "Because he loves me too much." "No," she replied, "because he sees your money more than he sees you." But I didn't listen. Love makes you foolish. When he proposed, I said yes even before he finished his sentence. I married him with my whole chest, with a heart so full that my mother cried during the wedding and said, "My daughter, may this man treat you like the queen you are." If only she knew. For the first year, everything was perfect. Andrew told me I was the best thing that ever happened to him. He took me on trips. He bought me flowers every Friday. He called me my heart, my treasure, my blessing. I felt like the luckiest woman on earth. But the second year, something changed. Slowly, quietly, like a thief tiptoeing into a house. Andrew began asking more questions about my business. How much do you make in a month? Where do you keep your documents? Who are your main suppliers? What passwords do you use? I thought he was just curious, a supportive husband, so I answered everything. I told him things my own family members didn't even know, without thinking twice. That was the beginning of my downfall. One afternoon, I came home early and found him whispering on the phone. I heard him say, "Don't worry, she trusts me completely." When he saw me, he jumped like someone who stepped on fire. "Who were you talking to?" I asked. He gave me a shaky smile. "Just work, nothing serious." I believed him. But things got stranger. Sometimes he left the house at night. Sometimes he hid his phone. Sometimes he came home smelling like strong perfume. But whenever I asked questions, he kissed my forehead and said, "You worry too much, Margaret." I wanted to trust him. I forced myself to trust him. Until the day I saw something I could never unsee. I went to his car to bring out groceries and found a small red purse under the seat. A purse I had never seen before. Inside it was lipstick, a hotel room key, and a note that said, "Thank you for last night. Same time next week." My heart almost jumped out of my chest. I felt like the ground was spinning. When I confronted him, he acted offended. "You don't trust me, after everything." I cried. He hugged me. He told me it was a prank someone played. I wanted to believe him, so I forced myself to forget it like a foolish woman in love. But life does not hide the truth for long. And the truth came crashing down on me like a falling mountain the day I saw a strange signature on my property documents. A signature that looked too much like my husband's handwriting. That night I couldn't sleep. I sat on the bed, staring at him as he snored peacefully. The man who might have been digging my grave while kissing my forehead each night. I decided to investigate quietly. And what I found made me shake from head to toe. I discovered secret accounts, fake names, hidden transfers. He had been moving my money little by little for months. I even discovered he had a business registered under his name, using my money without my knowledge. But the final blow came when I found pictures of him and that same lady from the purse, holding hands, kissing, traveling together. Pictures taken while he told me he was going for business meetings. It felt like someone poured cold water on my soul. But I wasn't ready for confrontation yet. I wanted to catch him properly. I wanted proof. So I kept quiet, pretending everything was normal. Until that morning, when I woke up to the biggest betrayal of my life. The day he packed all my wealth and walked out with his secret lover. And as he walked away with my life in boxes, something terrible happened outside the house. A sound so loud it made my heart stop. A scream so sharp it cut through my bones. And when I rushed out to see what happened, what I saw made my legs turn to water. Something I never expected. Something that changed everything. Something that would lead me to the battle of my life. The scream outside tore through the morning like a knife. I ran out of the house with my heart pounding so hard it felt like it wanted to jump out of my chest. My breath caught in my throat when I saw my neighbor, Mrs. Turner, lying flat on the ground, shaking and crying. She pointed at the moving truck my husband had loaded with my wealth. At first, I didn't understand. Then I saw it. The truck driver had collapsed right beside the vehicle, unconscious, his body stiff, his face pale like chalk. His hands were frozen in a strange position, like he had been holding something and suddenly dropped it. The engine of the truck was still running. My husband and the lady beside him looked shocked, confused, and scared at the same time. For a moment, they forgot about the boxes of my belongings. They forgot about the lies. They forgot about me. Andrew rushed to the fallen driver, but instead of helping, he stumbled backward in a panic. He was fine just now," Andrew shouted, his voice shaking. "He just fell." People started running from different houses. Some screamed. Some prayed. Some whispered that it was a spiritual attack. Others said it was stress. But all I knew was that something terrible had happened at the exact moment my husband tried to steal everything I worked for. I stood there trembling as the ambulance carried the man away. The police arrived shortly after, asking questions. Andrew, breathing fast like someone who had just run from danger, kept saying, "I don't know what happened. I swear he was fine." But for the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. Not the fear of losing me, but the fear of getting caught. And then something happened that made my heart stop. One of the officers turned to me and said, "Ma'am, we need to check the vehicle. Since the truck was being used to move your belongings, we need your cooperation." Andrew's head snapped toward me so fast his neck almost cracked. I could see it in his eyes. He didn't want them opening that truck. He didn't want them checking those boxes. He didn't want them finding something. I didn't know what it was yet, but whatever he had planned for me, it wasn't just theft. No, it was bigger, darker, more dangerous. But before the officers even touched the truck, Andrew rushed forward like a madman. "Don't open it," he shouted. "Those boxes contain fragile items." Fragile items. My wealth. My documents. My jewelry. Fragile. Even the officers looked confused. "Where's your wife?" one officer asked him. "She's inside," he replied too quickly. "She's resting." I stepped forward. "I'm right here." His whole body froze. The lady beside him swallowed hard. Everyone suddenly went silent. The officer turned to me politely. "Ma'am, is this your husband?" I nodded slowly. "Is he moving your belongings with your permission?" The entire neighborhood turned to look at me, waiting for my answer. Andrew's eyes were begging, pleading, warning, all at the same time. He wanted me to lie. He wanted me to say it was a friendly move. He wanted me to protect him so he could destroy me. For a moment, I felt dizzy. For a moment, I remembered the good times. For a moment, my heart tried to speak before my brain. But then I looked at the woman beside him, holding my handbag. I looked at the boxes packed with my sweat and tears. I remembered the fake accounts, the stolen documents, the secret lover, the betrayal. My voice shook, but I said it clearly. "No, officer, I did not give him permission." Andrew's mouth dropped open. The lady gasped. People began whispering. The officer nodded and wrote something down. "All right, ma'am, we'll need to inspect the vehicle." That was the moment Andrew snapped. Before anyone could stop him, he grabbed one of the boxes, threw it onto the ground, and shouted, "You don't understand, Margaret. I needed this. I needed everything. You were going to ruin my life." Ruin his life. I who fed him. I who lifted him. I who gave him everything. Something inside me broke. But the worst part was yet to come. The officer opened the back of the truck. The crowd gasped. One woman covered her mouth and screamed. A child started crying. Inside the truck, hidden behind my boxes, was a black briefcase. The officer pulled it out slowly, opened it carefully, and what was inside made my blood run cold. Bundles of cash. Stacks upon stacks upon stacks. Not mine. Not from my business. Money with government seals. Money that should never be in a civilian's hand. Money that could bring trouble I was not ready for. The officer turned to me, then turned to my husband. "Sir," he said firmly, "you are under arrest." The lady beside my husband dropped my handbag and took off running like a wild goat. People chased her down the street. Andrew tried to escape too, but 3 officers grabbed him. He screamed my name like a dying man. "Margaret, don't let them take me. Please help me. I did it for us. I did it for us. For us." He stole my wealth. He cheated on me. He betrayed me. He hid stolen government money in a truck full of my belongings. And he wanted me to save him. Tears filled my eyes, not because I pitied him, but because that was the moment I finally admitted the truth. I married a man I didn't know. A man who had planned to destroy me from the beginning. A man who entered my life with a smile and a mission. But just when I thought the worst had passed, just when the officers were handcuffing him, just when the crowd thought the drama was over, a new voice shouted from down the street. "Don't arrest that man yet. There is more you need to see." Everyone turned. My heart dropped into my stomach, because the person running toward us was someone I never expected to show up. Someone holding something that could destroy everything I knew. And the moment I saw what was in their hand, my knees almost gave way. The person running toward us was Helen, my best friend, the only one who had warned me again and again about Andrew. But this time, she wasn't coming with advice. She wasn't coming with comfort. She wasn't coming with laughter. She was running like someone who had seen a ghost. Her hair was messy. Her slippers were half off her feet. Her face was red, and she was shaking like someone who had just escaped danger. And in her hand was a small brown envelope. An envelope that looked old, torn, dirty. An envelope that looked like it had been hidden for a long time. When she reached the scene, she didn't even greet anyone. She didn't breathe. She just pointed at Andrew and shouted, "Don't let him go. That man is worse than all of you think." People gasped. The officers paused. Andrew's face turned white. His lips trembled. The woman who ran earlier began shouting from the ground where they held her. "Don't tell them anything. Keep quiet." But Helen was not listening. She was on fire. She pointed the envelope at the officers and said, "Open this, before you move him anywhere." The officers looked at each other, then at me. I nodded, even though my whole body felt like jelly. My heart thumped so loudly I could hear it in my ears. Something inside me whispered, "Margaret, whatever is in that envelope, it will change everything." The officer carefully took it from Helen and opened it. The first thing he pulled out was a small USB flash drive. The second thing was a bunch of printed papers with strange numbers and signatures. But the last thing he pulled out was what made my breath stop. A photograph. A clear, sharp photograph of Andrew and the same red lipstick woman, sitting at a bank office with a man I recognized immediately. My lawyer. The lawyer who helped me draft my property documents. The lawyer I trusted like a brother. The lawyer who told me, "Your assets are completely safe, Margaret." My head began to spin. Helen grabbed my arm and whispered, "I tried to reach you all morning. Margaret, you need to listen to me. Your husband, your lawyer, and that woman, they were working together." I swallowed hard. Working together for what? Helen took a deep breath. Her voice cracked. "Margaret, they planned everything. The marriage, the romance, the sweetness, the lies. They planned to take everything you had and disappear." I felt the world tilt. My legs felt weak. My stomach twisted. The crowd murmured loudly. The officers leaned closer, listening. Helen continued, her voice now trembling with anger. "I found this envelope in your lawyer's office. He forgot to lock his drawer. Margaret, they made a plan to transfer your companies, your house, even your land documents, everything into Andrew's name." My heart dropped straight to the ground. "But that's not all," Helen said, her voice breaking. "They wrote fake statements saying you had mental problems. They wanted to declare you unfit so they could take legal control of your wealth." A loud cry escaped my mouth before I could stop it. People gasped. The lady thief covered her face. Andrew froze completely. I turned to him, my voice shaking. "Andrew, is this true?" He wouldn't look at me. His eyes darted around like a trapped animal. Then he whispered something so soft, only I heard it. It was supposed to be easy. You were too trusting. My world shattered. Completely. Helen stepped forward. That's not all, there's something else. The officer handed her the USB, and she plugged it into her phone. A video popped up. The officer held the phone higher so we could all see. The first face on the screen was Andrew. My husband. Sitting in a hotel room, smiling proudly. Talking to the woman and the lawyer. And then I heard his voice. Clear, loud, confident. By next month, Margaret will be under our control. Once we take her assets, she will have nothing left. Not even a cent. She won't see it coming. She loves me too much to suspect anything. A burning pain shot straight through my chest. My hands started shaking so badly, I almost fell. The video continued. The lawyer said, after that, we erase the trail, then you two travel out. The woman laughed and said, and what about the old fool? Andrew smirked. She will survive, but she won't matter anymore. A scream tore out of my throat. I held my chest. I felt like someone stabbed my heart with a hot knife. Every part of me burned with pain. People shouted. Some cursed Andrew. Some shook their heads in disbelief. Children were pulled away so they wouldn't see. But the officers were no longer calm. One of them grabbed Andrew by the collar. You plan to steal her entire life, and you plan to disappear with stolen government funds on top of it. Andrew finally snapped. He started shouting and pushing, his voice wild. She didn't deserve the money. She didn't deserve any of it. I should have had everything. I worked harder. I sacrificed more. The officer slapped handcuffs on him so hard he stumbled. The crowd clapped. Some people laughed. Some shouted, God Don Catch AM. But I didn't laugh. I didn't clap. I didn't celebrate. I stood frozen, tears falling down my cheeks, my body numb. The man I loved. The man I trusted with all of me. The man I shared my house, my food, my bed, my dreams, my heart with, had tried to erase me completely. The officers began to drag him towards the police van. But just when I thought everything was finally out in the open, just when I thought the truth had finished unfolding, just when I thought my tears were done, Andrew suddenly twisted around, looked straight at me, and shouted, You don't know anything, Margaret. There is something bigger coming. If they open that second briefcase, your whole world will burn. Everyone stopped. The officers froze. Helen's eyes widened. The crowd gasped. I felt my stomach turn. Second briefcase. What second briefcase? The officer looked around. Which briefcase is he talking about? Andrew laughed, a loud, strange, broken laugh. You think the one you found was bad, he shouted. Open the other one and see what she has been living with. The officers exchanged confused looks. Where is it? One asked. Andrew pointed with his chin toward the truck, his eyes wild. In the bottom corner, hidden under the last box. The officer walked slowly toward the truck. Opened the back. And bent down. He pulled out a second black briefcase, bigger than the first. Everyone held their breath. The officer placed it on the ground. Locked. Heavy. Suspicious. And then, click. He opened it. When the lid lifted, people screamed. Some ran back. Helen covered her mouth. The officer staggered backward. But me. My whole world stopped. Inside that briefcase was something I never imagined would be connected to my life. Something far more dangerous than stolen money. Something that could destroy more than my marriage. Something that could destroy me. The officer stumbled backward as the second briefcase opened, his hand flying to his mouth. People screamed. Mothers grabbed their children and ran. Even the woman who had been caught earlier began shouting, Close it! Close it! Don't let her see. But it was too late. I stepped forward slowly, my heart pounding like thunder inside my chest. My legs felt weak, but something inside me pushed me forward. I needed to know. I deserved to know. When I reached the open briefcase, the world around me began to blur. Inside, neatly arranged, were documents, not ordinary documents, not money, not jewelry, but fake property transfer forms, already printed with my signature forged on them. And next to them were 3 passports, not mine, not Andrew, but passports with my picture and 3 different names. Names I had never used. Identities I had never claimed. Lives I had never lived. The crowd gasped louder. But the worst of all, at the very bottom of the briefcase, was a printed document stamped with a bold red mark. Case file, MARGRETWLTRS, fraud investigation. I froze. My breath caught in my throat. My knees nearly gave way. I whispered, "What is this? What is all this?" The officer slowly lifted the file. Inside were letters, reports, false allegations, accusing me of stealing money, committing fraud, laundering government funds, everything terrible you can imagine. Every page was written to look official. Every line was meant to ruin me. Every word was a trap. Helen grabbed my hand tightly. "Margaret, they were planning to frame you." Another officer looked at me with sympathy. "Ma'am, if these documents had reached the wrong hands, you would have been arrested by now." My heart dropped. My chest tightened. I felt like I couldn't breathe. Arrested. For crimes I didn't commit. For things I didn't even know about. My whole body felt cold. Andrew suddenly laughed, loud, bitter, angry. "You think she's innocent? You think she deserves anything she owns? She got lucky. I'm the one who deserved the wealth. I planned everything so she would lose everything and be thrown away like trash." The officer pushed him toward the van, but he kept screaming. "She trusted too much, too soft, too emotional, too stupid. Everything was too easy." Those words hit me like stones. But then, suddenly, something inside me hardened. The tears that were falling slowed. The shaking in my hands stopped. The heaviness in my chest lifted. For the first time that day, I looked at Andrew not as my husband, but as a stranger. A dangerous one. And in that moment, a calm strength rose inside me like a quiet flame. I stepped forward and said, my voice steady, "You may have fooled me, Andrew. You may have planned to destroy me. You may have thought I was weak, but you forgot something." The entire crowd went silent. Even the officers stopped moving. I continued. "I built my life from nothing, and someone who rises from nothing does not fall because of a snake like you." Andrew's face twisted in anger. I wiped my tears and spoke again. "I loved you with all my heart, but you betrayed me for all my wealth. Now you will face what you deserve." The crowd clapped. Helen hugged me tightly. The officers placed Andrew and the woman in the van and drove away. As the vehicle moved, I saw him staring at me through the metal bars, his eyes filled with fury, shock, and defeat. For days, my body felt heavy. My heart felt bruised. My mind felt tired. Betrayal from a stranger hurts, but betrayal from someone you love, it cuts the deepest. But life doesn't end in sadness. And neither did mine. With Helen's help and the officers' support, every fake document was destroyed. The government thanked me for exposing the stolen money. My businesses continued. My home remained mine. And slowly, piece by piece, I healed. I learned to laugh again. I learned to trust myself again. I learned to love my life again. One afternoon, as I sat on my porch, watching children run and play, Helen said something that made me smile. "You know, Margaret, what the enemy meant to break you, God used to lift you." And she was right. Andrew thought he ended me, but he only exposed his own darkness. I survived. I grew stronger. And I lived to tell this story. So whenever young people sit around me and ask, "Grandma, what did you learn from everything?" I smile gently and say, "My dear, love with your heart, but don't close your eyes. Trust people, but don't hand them your entire life. And most of all, never forget your worth. Because the moment you forget who you are, someone else will try to write your story for you. They always clap. They always cheer. And they always say, "Grandma, you're strong." But I tell them, I am strong because I survived what was meant to destroy me. And that is the truth. Thanks for watching. Drop your comment about this video. And please subscribe to this channel for more interesting videos.